Welcome to another episode of the Everything's Been Done podcast. Livestream conversations on cycling subculture. I'm your host, Dustin Klein, and I am very excited about today's guest. He is a ultra-distance cyclist, a top-level designer at one of the biggest bicycle companies in the world, and he is steeped in the dark arts of black metal. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Erik Nohlin. Welcome, Erik.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah. I'm always nervous at the beginning. You never know. Like, oh, did the wheels fall off already? But I think we are good to go.
You got this.
So, Erik, we just need to start from the beginning. Where are you from?
It says Sweden in my passport. So I guess that's to normal standards how people define where you're from. It's where I was born, and I was born in Stockholm, in Sweden, 41 years ago.
And then, did you move around a lot, or kind of grow up in that area?
No, yeah. I guess from the outside it looks like we moved all the time, but I lived maybe in 10 different places before I was a grown up, before I moved away from home. And, lived down south in Sweden for a while, and then moved a bit north again. And then we moved abroad with my family when I was 14. We moved to Brussels, or Waterloo, where Napoleon lost his battle. When I was 14, we stayed there for 3 years. I think that's when I really found that it was awesome outside of Sweden's borders, and I've been almost outside since then, more or less. At least in my head. I think I've been outside of Sweden now for 11 years.
Oh, okay. And I'm curious of at what point you ended up coming over to the States, but then also I'm curious of if you what kind of subcultures or things did you grow up with? And maybe they weren't subcultures. Maybe you loved tennis. I don't know.
The Californication is a thing. The cultural imperialism of California is strong. It's one of the world's strongest brands, and I got hit by that at an early age through music and movies and Hollywood. And Sweden is a small country. It's like back then it's like 6-7 million people and a lot of empty space, and I mean there's some awesome shit coming from Sweden, cultural wise and music wise, of course, but everything that happened in California just struck me at an early age, and I started sort of studying punk rock and metal and arts and movies and films, and it's sort of in my blood. So getting to the US, I got to the US in my mind when I was 7. I don't know. It was such a natural thing. I didn't move here until 2012 or 13. But I'd been here many times before that, and I knew that I was going to end up here sometime in my life. I got ancestors, from far back who escaped the harsh conditions of Sweden and escaped to Minnesota and became all kinds of awesome people there. So, just until maybe 2017, I had relatives, Swedish relatives living in the US. So now I am here representing the Nohlins in the US.
It's really funny that you mentioned Scandinavian to the Minnesota. I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, and there's a ton of Scandinavian culture there. So it's really and the weirdest thing about that is in the North Dakota, Scandinavia, there'd be jokes like Scandinavian pencil, and it would have 2 erasers. It was almost dumbed down, and it bugged the shit out of me. Now it bugs the shit out of me because Scandinavian culture is so cool. I don't understand Well, I digress, I suppose.
It's different. It's different from whether there is a US culture or not. I mean, there's many cultures, but Sweden in terms of significance is like a subculture. I mean, no doubt. Just because of the size of it. So it scares some people, it amazes some people, and that's I've always liked being from Sweden because I've always actively thought about the outsideness or counterculture of everything that I do. It's so profound in me. I want to be on the outside. I want to swim against the stream. So being Swedish in America is sort of it comes so natural because that's so much me. I'm in this mass popular culture, and I'm the outsider because I'm different. I speak differently. I have a different heritage. I think differently, and it's just a great fit. Like being a creative here, being from another country, it's awesome.
Yeah, so that kind of gets me thinking about. I've always had this. This is an outside perspective that Scandinavian culture is much more like design is more infused in the culture. Does that feel true for you actually being from there, or is that just like a uplifted perspective from an outsider?
I think it's an outsider perspective. Um, yes or no? I mean, it was a very for hundreds of years. It was a really like monotheistic culture kind of. There was just a very frugal in the way that culture was about. Like we were pretty good at resisting religion for a long time. We resisted the Nazis. It's like we resisted a lot of things that kept our culture like sort of intact, for good and for bad. Because like when the rest of the world moves in such a rapid pace and always has, when you're conserving yourself, it's not always good. And like that's why I left Sweden eventually, because I felt that the outside was more interesting. But I'm also really proud of sort of the culture that is and where I came from and the heritage. Uh, but I think what you're describing exists everywhere, but maybe it feels more exclusive because there's less of it. There's less of us.
Yeah, and then there's also like any place that's new or different. Like traveling is the best example. You just observe so much more. So you're like, oh, like look at the manhole covers or the fire hydrants. They look so crazy here, which
Yeah,
are mundane when they're every day.
yeah,
Um,
true.
I'm curious of so I'm yeah, this goes without saying, but you're familiar with like the story of mayhem and all of that, like the history of black metal.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I'm sure much more than I am. Did you grow up during the time when that whole thing happened? Like, were you around that area?
Yeah, yeah, I was, but on a fringe, very much on the outside. It's been blown up, and now it seems like it happened everywhere.
Sure.
But it was a very very small subcultural thing that happened. I knew about it when it happened,
Oh
but
wow.
like 6 million people, and there were 200 people doing this,
Yeah.
and the mysticism around what it was and how it happened, it has been amplified since. But yeah, I mean, me and my wife, we lived in Gothenburg, where some of the black metal murders happened, and we lived. It was the same neighborhood, and the people that were involved in that, like we saw them at like the local grocery store, and the where we went up to like drink a beer on a Friday is where the murder happened. It was you
Whoa.
could throw a stone there. So it was present there. The bands that were sort of built the platform of what black metal is today. They were around. You saw them around. Like the Niflheim guys. You saw them every day on the tram and on the bus. Uh, I've never played an instrument, so I wasn't involved musically, but we went to concerts. We were hanging out at some of the same places. We had an awesome place called Truck Stop Alaska, very American, but sort of a cultural shed in the harbor of Gothenburg, and a lot of the awesome bands were playing there. So yeah,
Have you seen the Lords of Chaos movie, the dramatization one?
I have,
Yeah.
I have.
I thought it was awesome, but I'm
Me
not as
too.
close to it as you were. What was your perception of it?
No, it was awesome, and you know why it was awesome? Because it was dorky. Like it was fun, and it was dorky, and it was quirky, and
Right.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the original founders of that scene, they were just a bunch of dorks. They're super committed, really creative people, but a bunch of outside dorks.
Yeah.
And like we all are. I mean, we can relate to it, and I can relate to that. It was I gotta say too, there were so many details in that movie that I think you missed out on. But because that I grew up in that era, I was there in 1990 when you went and you rented a VHS cassette, and all the small details that they hit in that film is fantastic.
Cool.
And I only think you only know of them if you've been there yourself. And like that era of the late 90s where or mid 90s where we were still that monoculture. Both Norway and Sweden were still that monotheistic culture. So I enjoyed it tremendously, and people who don't like it, just fucking relax. It's a good movie.
Yeah. I thought that they did a great job too of showing the like awkwardness mixed with like the crazy insanity of what they really did. It just felt so real.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got the death archives back here. I got the mayhem book.
Oh,
Hang on here.
sick.
It's actually it's signed by Necro Butcher. It says Till Erik from Necro Butcher.
What?
So yeah, I mean, this is the story, and like everybody should know. It's just a fascinating cultural document and era. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like interesting cultural thing that happened, and it's kind of like changed that genre of music or elevated it. And then also I make this sort of like a transition, but the aesthetics of that style of music is so strong, and it has such a pull to it that I don't know, like I personally love it, and I wonder if you like were ever involved with making graphics like that, or like I don't know, like were you ever involved with the visual aspect of that culture?
I mean, to a very profound base of it, yes, because what it has, is an extremely clear point of view. The POV is extremely clear from that genre of music. It's informed and inspired by nature. It's about counterculture. It's about hating everything, but it's so well defined what it is and what it's not. That yes, I mean, I've always liked that firm approach and point of view in storytelling or in design or in graphic design, whatever expression, any kind of music too. It's super fascinating, and even to this date, when I'm a creator for a bigger commercial company, that it's still with me. Sort of the definition and the clarity in what I do and what comes easy for me. It's born somewhere there back in Scandinavia and in that era, no doubt.
Yeah, a couple ways to go off of that one. I guess. Yeah. Okay. This seems like a perfect segue. You say like maybe you were even saying this earlier, like inherently in you, you feel like a certain sense of like resistance to normalcy or things that are like regular. Oh yeah, you were saying it just a moment ago. Like you like being sort of like an outlier, like something slightly different. And I feel like I understand and totally relate to that. And then it brings to mind the idea of like, you know, you working in this like kind of corporate monolith of, you know, cycling, which is fringe, but it's like this, you know, I could almost see you like building frames on your own and just being like a falconer type of thing. Like it's kind of interesting to me that you do work in this structured environment also. Like it seems like a very interesting balance.
Yeah, but you know what it is? It's a megaphone. That's what it is.
Ooh, okay, go
And
explain.
well, the reach that I have now for my stupid ideas are fucking tremendous, right? You got this brand that people look at, and Specialized has the reach of you know, like Specialized is sold in like almost 150 countries. You know, it's like there for 5,000 shops. You know, it's like the reach is tremendous, and I love bicycles, and I believe in them so much as a part of the solution. So when I'm working at Specialized, I can help bring that idea to the masses in a way more powerful way than if I was a maker in my own shed, you know, doing or reaching a few. Now I reach millions, you know. If I design a bicycle frame or whatever it is, just a couple of weeks later, it feels like there's 100,000 people riding them and enjoying them and loving them and being fulfilled by them, right? You see it, like it's really powerful. So why would I want to be my own? You know, maybe later in life when I'm burnt out, but now as long as I have this urge of saving the world by bicycles, then it's the perfect place to be.
Totally. Yeah, and I guess I wasn't sure that was like an underlying message. So that kind of value or mission statement makes perfect sense, is obviously in such alignment with where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah.
I know that you design at Specialized, but design is a very broad word. I actually don't know exactly. Is it like the geometry or graphics or all of it? Like, what is it? What? What do you do there?
You know, I've been trying to get a title for the last 5 years.
Oh, that's cool. No title. I like that.
It seems to be impossible to do. Sometimes I need it. You know, I have this discussion now with my boss. It's like, hey, I'm doing all these things, and it's like, let's say I need a raise, but then if I have a title, you're locked into a structure where you can only earn so much or little, because it's always a reference to all the other people doing the same thing. Right. And I've never done the same thing as everybody else. And I've always, you know, going back to the counterculture, I think I've managed to have a central place in that company, but there's not a lot of people who actually understand or get what I do. My closest team, yes, it's some kind of broader sense of design, but it's also like it's the brand building. I would say it's a design umbrella. You know, it's the brand building. It's industrial design. It's graphic design. It's the marketing side of things, the outward communication. It's just, you know, the closest I got to a title was creator with a K, and I gave that to myself. It's a German metal band. You don't have to listen to it. This is pretty shitty. But they're called Creator. And I felt, okay, that's me. I'm a creator, right? Like, if you put a title on me, it's just like, it's going to be a suit that's too small, because I don't want to be defined. And I don't want to like, oh, Erik he's manager of that. I think I am a creator, and And whenever if I would get a title, it wouldn't really describe what I do. I love being in that gray zone because that's life in general to me. It's not actually black and white, it is a gray zone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Actually, I'm very impressed that you have gotten away with them like not applying a title to you. Congratulations on that.
Well, they have tried too, and I've tried, but we can't seem to figure it out. Everybody else has titles. I can't get a title.
No, that's you don't want one though. You don't need one.
If somebody has any ideas, you just shoot them over to me because I like if you look at it from the outside, you think you know what I'm doing. Just send me some ideas of a good title because I need to go into that discussion with my boss pretty soon.
But I don't think any of us know what the hell you do.
No, okay. Hey, I am there for the broader sense of cycling, and I am a creative engine and a driver of change. I want to be a driver of positive change at the company, and I know I am. And I don't care about a title. I don't care about sort of hierarchies. It's a very flat organization. So I guess in other big companies, not having a title would be worse. But we have a really flat organization, and my colleagues are just my colleagues. They're not my bosses and bosses and bosses.
Yeah, that's cool. Totally. Do you like the categories that you work on? Is it across everything, like little kids bikes, mountain bikes, performance bikes, or is it one genre in particular?
So right now I'm working on a big concept that's 5 years out, or less, but that's more vision work. And then I'm working on a shoe that's in Peter Sagan, his collection that I'm driving.
Cool.
And I'm working on some storage solutions. I'm working on apparel, working on color and graphics. Got to look around me here. Yeah, no, I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I work with bikes and equipment, and
Okay.
it's not like we're also a very small team. So you always have somebody. It's like, hey, come and look at this, and then vice versa. You get tangled in all kinds of shit all the time, and so there's no borders. It's like the European Union, like there's like shoes, and then you're friends with helmets, and then you're friends with apparel, and in the end, you're just one.
Yeah, that sounds awesome too, because then you're not just doing one thing over and over and over and slowly barreling into the wall of burnout. It's like
Yeah.
everything keeps it interesting.
It never gets bored. I mean, I've been there 8 years soon, and
Wow.
I've never had a boring day.
Sick.
I've never had a day where I can like sit down and feel like I'm so fucking over this. It's boring, because there's always a fire somewhere that makes you move around. It's
Yeah.
awesome. It's not for everyone, but I love it.
I saw the new Diverge just came out, which is
Yeah, yesterday.
I'm stoked. It's got higher volume tires. It kind of got all the things that it needed to have, in my opinion. I'm so intrigued by that storage in the Downtube. That is so fucking cool. Like what
Yeah.
the hell? Is that old news?
It's been on mountain bikes, but
Oh,
it's new on road bikes, and it's new on gravel bikes. It's been around on mountain bikes for like 6 7 years.
okay.
But now it's on road bikes too. It's awesome because you can hide all your shit down there. Things that you don't want to have on the bike, it's now in the bike.
It's
You don't need that burrito roll that you have up front, or you don't need a saddlebag. You can have a wind jacket there. You can have a rain jacket. You can keep a burrito. You can keep a small sort of a wine container. You can have your weed there, like anything.
is there a cover over it? Does it or is it just a
Yeah.
hole? Oh, there is a cover.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
plugged. It's under the water bottle, and it's like hinged. So you just snap it open and then you pull it out.
Oh, sick. Okay. that was not clear in the like the brand page, like of the product page on the site. I was like, I don't understand how this works. There was like a soft shelled roll in there. I was like, what? I like this, but I don't get it. So thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, I think it turned out it's a funny thing because I was assigned as the lead designer for that project, and
Ah,
then
cool.
there was an urgency and an opportunity that I took instead, and I left the project, and
Oh,
I'm kind of bummed about it now, but it was in very good hands, and the team that ended up doing it is just incredibly fucking talented. So it wasn't like it would have mattered anyway, but it's like that would have been a baby to me because that's my kind of writing, and
yeah.
it was my dream project.
Yeah.
And then I did something else that was also a great learning curve, and I want to learn things all the time. I think I'm like you there. I'm always tinkering and challenging myself, and I feel like as long as there's resistance and as long as you're like, oh fuck, I don't know what to do here, but I'm learning. As long as you keep on climbing that fucking mountain of learning, then I know I'll be safe. And maybe that's what happened. There was this opportunity of going into technical apparel that I didn't have much experience from, and I did, and I learned. The learning curve just like took off like a fucking rocket, and I learned a ton. And then I left apparel, and now I'm back into bikes again, which is awesome.
Yeah, like I like this point of, trying new things. We both do it. I do it a lot, but even though I do it all the time, there's always that constant that it's fucking hard, man. It's like scary, the unknown. It's like, so, it's kind of like resistance.
Mhm.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that, like emotional resistance personally? Or maybe you don't even feel it. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, of course, I feel it, but I've also chosen it, and I think that's my strength. Like these days,
Hmm.
being more than halfway through my life and being Erik Nohlin at this company, or in general, I'd say, also in society, um, the counterculture thing that I touched on before, this swimming against the stream, sort of. That's resistance, right? You're there. You're
Hmm.
just one fish in that stream, and you're swimming upstream. I've done that my whole life, so I'm used to it. But it's the challenge and the fun thing there is really to try to like strategize and navigate and team up with like-minded people and come in from the outside and just boom, you know like that. Like the strategy around that has always been funny, how to take something that's weird or odd or different and place that into the heart of where you need to go and have people look at it. It's like, yeah, okay, I see it now. I think that's a cool thing.
So, when you say strategy, are you saying like a plan for a project, or are you thinking of a specific like commercial thing in mind? Like, because trying new things doesn't always have to be like a for sale thing. It's like talking to somebody that you don't know in front of four different strangers, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, no, I mean sometimes like you get the feeling that you're sort of tapped into the source.
Hmm.
You see things differently, and I think as creatives we come around that a lot, where our minds are educated and shaped in the way that we can visualize things that are not there yet. Like when you draw, you see what you're going to draw inside your mind, and then it comes out through your limbs. I feel the same in the context that I am right now, where the strategy is sort of that. You could call it a vision. I get the vision and I see it. It might be 5 years ahead of us, or it could be two meetings and a few conversations away. But that vision and taking it from just an idea or the first, like what flicks through your mind, the strategy is like, how do I ground this? Who do I tell? Who do I ally with? Who's my friend here? Who's the enemy? And then, because if you believe in something, then you want to make it happen, and then you want to share it to the world, and have people be as stoked as you are. And talking about the megaphone, that's what the cool thing is right now. That a stupid idea that's just a doodle on one of my sheets here can affect 1 million people in 3 years.
Yeah. Dude, vision is so critical for any project. For sure. That is like such a secret weapon. Once there's a vision, then it's just tasking away until it can, you know what I mean? It's just like, then it's just work until it actually happens. The vision is like, and of course it changes as the project happens, but the vision is very important.
And not everybody has that ability to visualize something that's not there. And that's why I think like the creative leadership within any company, and when you say that you're design driven and really stand behind you or behind that message, good things are gonna happen. Like Apple did not get to where they are now because they did not let the creatives drive. Like there's so many examples where music and art and design and architecture, whenever that changes society, it's been by design. It's been from a very, very, very strong point of view, and usually that's what we can call the vision. If you listen to people with visions and accept to follow them, instead of trying to like go around and lead people but not really have the direction or the point of view, that's when you get far really fast. And I think that's the times we're in now. You see things are happening so fast, and successes and tragedies happens like every second. Everything is so instant today that people with strong visions, I'd say just follow. It's going to be more fun.
The Specialized is a brand that I've always like had a lot of respect for. I always joke that they're like the Nike of cycling, because innovation is so, this is all obviously from an outside perspective, innovation seems to be such a strong element of the brand, and it's, which is so cool. It's so radical. Like sometimes it nails it, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think because of both of those, it's so interesting. It seems like it's so married to innovation. Is that does that ring true from the inside?
Yeah, and much more than you would ever believe.
Totally, because
you only see,
yes,
you see about 1/10 of the innovation that is made.
Right.
That's what gets to the market. I mean, there are people with the title creative specialists. All they do is innovate. That's their job. They're just trying and failing and trying and failing. They're full-time employed, and there are many of them that all they do is fail all day and then get back on their feet and say, oh, let's do it differently. Let's make one more. Let's try this instead. To me, that's innovation. That's creative innovation. And I'd say that Specialized is the bicycle brand in the modern era who's investing the most into that, into R&D.
Yeah.
We're investing into failure in I mean, it's fucking expensive, but it's also it makes a difference in the end.
Yeah, no. I totally agree. I feel like you just see it from the product. The brand seems to always be just like trying new things. Like, oh, what about this? What about that? Like, it's so refreshing, opposed to just like kind of, a lot. And it makes sense for a lot of brands that, maybe they don't have money, resources or whatever. They kind of just make smaller steps, but it's really impressive to see the commitment to just like innovation. Yeah. And
Yeah. And you know what I like the most is that there's been, I mean, since we don't really manufacture anything but like water bottles and smaller stuff like that, but we engineer, we innovate. That is our main business. We innovate and then we market it. Somebody else can manufacture it for us, so we don't really have to invest like 50% of our time trying to manufacture things, because other people that do that better can do that.
totally.
And instead we can focus all the brains and all the resources on thinking about what's next, like innovating, investing in R&D. The R&D shop that is down in Morgan Hill today is state of the art. It's the biggest in the business. Like the machines, the resources, the brain power, it's incredible to see. And we own we've taken command of the development process that, you know, starts with design from both like a creative sort of you know, traditional design, but also from the engineering and the manufacturing side of design. And then that just blends into a weird and beautiful dance. And I'm part of it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's very, very impressive. It's interesting what you were just saying about the designers, that they basically, their job is to fail. It's like 10 tries of failing and one make, and that is like the exact way to describe skateboarding. It's like 90% failing, 10 to 1% success, and it's I don't know, like there's not many things that people can do when they're younger that it doesn't teach you, it just shows you, it gets one familiar with, comfortable with failure. And I feel like that can't be understated enough. There's a lot of power in that.
But do you know how much culture that has come out of skateboarding? You know, because they, like, skateboarders' parents encourage them to go and get fucking holes in their new jeans and, you know, come home with dirt on their hands. And it's like the freedom of that expression. It's like, hey, I'm allowed to do this. I can go and fail, and I can tear my new pants and shred my new shoes. You know, that's the kind of relationship that we have to the leadership of the company too, because we are encouraged to go and get dirty, and we're encouraged to go and fail and come like, hey, daddy, I ruined my new jeans. And then it's like, fuck yeah, high five. Awesome. Here's, you know, like, stitch them up and go out again, son. That's the kind of relationship that we have. And it's just it's cool to be a creative in that, because like with the skate culture and what that, like how many artists and musicians that has started with skateboarding, you know, because of the culture. It's amazing to think about. And that's an environment where a lot of creativity comes out. It's when you're allowed to fail and encouraged to fail.
Yeah, right. Have support around failure. Be like, you can fail. Because you'll be able to just get up and do something else again. It doesn't mean you're fired or broken or dead or whatever.
Yeah, no, totally.
I'm curious how, subject shift, how you got into cycling. How did this happen?
I'm trying to define a good story here, but I'm not really sure. I'm gonna tell you one. I don't know if it's true necessarily, but I remember maybe I was 5 and I got this, my dad made me this like coaster bike that I could skid on. And what I do know, it was like the suburbs of a pretty small city in the south of Sweden. But I remember the immense freedom that I felt getting on this bike with my neighbor and all the kids in the neighborhood. And there was a BMX track. It was probably half a mile away, but it felt like it was just like every time I got on my bike it felt like the Stand By Me sort of movie where let's just go far away and have an adventure. That's what the bike did to me. I mean, I could have walked there, but I remember how sort of the profound impact that sense of freedom had to me. It's like, hey, this is independence. I can ride away from my parents. I can ride away from anything, and I can go on an adventure with my buddies here, my 5-year-old buddies. I think that I want that. I think that story is kind of true. It might be better than it actually is, but it started somewhere there. And then I always had bikes around me, and I had a Univega mountain bike when I was 11 already, and then that got stolen. I got another one, and then since I've always had bikes around me, and been encouraged to be like, hey, see you later, mom and dad, I'll be home for dinner. And they had no fucking idea what we were doing, but we were out on our bikes.
Yeah, no, what? So you kind of cycling stayed a part of your life the whole time?
Yeah, the whole time. Yeah, the whole time. And when I was in art school, I was racing mountain bikes, and like I was the only guy who would go, like everybody was there like sipping red wine, talking about poetry, and like it was like 2 a.m. and I was like, I gotta go because I gotta ride 100 miles tomorrow morning. And I wasn't a part. I was never going to be able to be an artist, because like I was not into the parlay or into who you or what you were supposed to be as an artist or to be an artist. So because I was an aspiring athlete back then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I just loved it. I love the freedom of just shredding fast as fuck, alone in the woods. So I did that instead. And then, like, you're not going to become an artist, but you can become a designer. Maybe it's sort of being an artist for the industry. And I applied to. Well, actually, I had a mentor, and this is funny. I got a letter from him here. It's from this legendary graphic designer, H.C. Eriksson. This is in Swedish, but this is part of the letters that we wrote to each other. But he told me, and I mean, he was a fucking genius. He died a couple of years ago, but he said, Erik, you're never gonna become an artist. And this was my final year in art school. I was there for 2 years. Like, you're never gonna become an artist. You're too like square-minded. You're too defined. Like, you're too on point for being an artist, And that was in a traditional sense of like painting and, drinking wine and talking about light and such. But he said this. He said, hey, I only see, like, fuck art. Like, you'll never make it. I'm sorry to say it, but there's something called industrial design. And that's when you can become an artist and keep on being who you are and who you want to become. Just stay on track. But it's like being an artist for the industry or for capitalism. And I was like, okay, sure. But what about it? And then he said, hey, there's 2 schools. There's one in Helsinki in Finland, and I looked it up and I missed the submission or admission period. And then there was one up right by the Arctic Circle in Sweden, in Umeå, where the band Refused is from. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to go there. That's cool. So I applied and I got in. And that's when I learned that I could combine bicycles and my profession. And this is 20 years ago. So I've stayed on the path since. I just worked with bicycle the whole time.
Yeah, that is very impressive. You've kind of stayed on the same longitude, latitude, whatever the way to say it, like the same path, kind of your whole life. I have a lot of respect for that. I feel like that's very uncommon.
Yeah, right out of university, I took my master's degree in Gothenburg, and the day after my graduation party, I started my own company, a consultancy for the bike business, because
Cool.
nobody was doing that. So I had my own business called Kiki Industrial Design, and I did that for 2 years. And then I got to say, I had one bump in the road there because I got entangled in a design strategy agency and stayed there for 4 years. And I ended doing autoclaves and sterilization equipment and
Oh wow.
big fucking machines that they have in basements of hospitals. I did that. I learned a lot. That's when I grew up as a designer because I got so much responsibility. All of a sudden, I was a lead designer for this, billion-dollar company, and I was like 20, I don't know what, like 29, 28.
Wow.
And so I grew up real fast as a designer with a lot of say. And then I ejected myself from that context when the bike path was sort of getting dried up, and I inserted myself into bikes again. I forced myself into bikes, and that specialized, and that's 8 years ago.
Oh wow. So it went from the like that kind of autoclave industrial thing to specialized.
Yeah, yeah, with
Wow.
like a year in between, but
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, right.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Oh, very cool. So you must have been fucking stoked to team up with Specialized then to make that transition.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know much about it, to be honest. I just know it was one of the best, and I googled, and things just happened too fast. I got hired way too fast, and I wasn't ready, and I'm stoked it happened that way. In retrospect, I would have waited a year if that's a thing. But me and my wife were on a bike tour across the U.S., and it was a big sort of recovering, find the next chapter in life kind of trip. Life
Yeah.
defining.
Yep.
Because
They were called walkabouts.
yeah, we were roaming around with no direction. We were following spring north from Austin up to Portland, and
Whoa.
we didn't really know where we were going to be out for a year. We had saved up, and
Whoa.
and my wife was really badly burnt out, and my mom had just died, and we were pretty messy, and we decided to just cut. And we we flew to Austin, and we started riding our bikes north. And in Flagstaff, I found Specialized, which is not a far distance, and
Whoa.
I got hired on the spot almost. So
Re-
it was way premature. It wasn't meant to, that year ended up being 6 months, and I was part of the Specialized family.
How
But
did they just see you riding across the country? They're like, "Hey you. Hey, you want a job?
no,
Get over
no,
here."
well, we got we it got really cold in Flagstaff, and we decided to stay there for 2 days. I was sitting in some bar, checking on my phone, checking on, like, I probably Googled like West Coast bicycle companies, and
Oh, interesting.
Santa Cruz came up, and it's like, okay, I heard about them. Specialized, like, oh yeah, I know them. And then a few others from like Seattle down to San Diego. There's a bunch of companies, and then I went on to Specialized, and this is actually a true story, the way it happened. But I got into there's a career section on the webpage,
Oh yeah.
and it said dream jobs, and I checked there, and there was a position it was written in a way like somebody who had known me for like my whole life
No
just
way.
talked to me as two friends do. It's
Whoa.
like, Erik, we got this perfect job for you here. It's your dream job, like, you got to come. And then it's like, come see. And all of a sudden, I had applied on the webpage. The day after, the head of HR called me. It's like, Erik, where are you? I'm in Flagstaff. Okay, you got to come over here. We got to interview you.
Whoa.
And they said, you go to this bike shop in Central Flagstaff. They're gonna pack down your bike. You're gonna get on this flight. You're gonna fly to
Whoa.
say, we're gonna pick you up. And then so that all happened, and I went on a bike ride with Mike Sinyard. It was like an
Whoa.
8 hour bike ride in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I almost fucking died. 'cause it was so hard. But that was his test, hanging out with me, seeing if I had it, if I had the right attitude, the PMA, all that.
Yeah.
And I was pretty strong at a time from touring, and I did that, and I got hired on the spot. But it was way premature because we were gonna be out. Like I came back to the hotel where Sophia was waiting, and I'm like, fuck, I got hired. Fuck. It's like this wasn't supposed to happen this fast. Well, so we bought 12 weeks, and we rode our bikes up to Portland and down the one, and then we got stationed in Switzerland at the specialized office there, and we just saw that as a continuation of the Great Escape journey that we did. We called it the Great Escape, and we were hiking the Alps for a year instead of riding, through Idaho.
It sounds like the walkabout kind of did what it needed to do, at least for you.
It was crazy, huh?
How did it do for Sophie?
Well, it turned out to be nice because she was not healed, after 3 months after getting really badly burnt out. But, we moved to Switzerland, and she found ceramics there, and she used to be a fashion designer, and she had like 6-7 years in ultra rapid fast fashion.
Right.
And she got burnt out and didn't want to return to the fashion industry. But she's such a creative, and she found a new material and a new expression. And then she actually, based on the name of the bicycle tour, she started the Great Escape Studio based on the name of the tour. And then this is a piece from her. She's doing awesome now. She's got a studio in the Mission in San Francisco, and it's like, yeah, I mean, call it serendipity, call it whatever you want, but things just happened, and we said yes, and yeah, now we're here.
I fucking love that story. Holy shit! I don't know anybody who wouldn't. So, I mean, the power of just kind of like doing a walkabout, like taking an adventure, like I don't even know how to verbalize that.
You know what it's about? The most profound thing here is like, say yes. Always say yes. Even if you don't know the outcome of it, if you have no idea what's going to happen. But if somebody gives you an opportunity, if somebody says something to you, try to say yes instead of saying no, because it's just way more fun. And then all of a sudden you end up having your dream job, or you find a new expression of like you had never touched clay before. And then it's like, yeah, I say yes, I'm going to try this, or I'm going to throw myself into a new context. I think that's how mankind evolves, and as a creative, that's how you keep on staying on point and keep on like staying hungry and learn things. Say yes.
Okay, I want to devil's advocate this one for just a second.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I agree with like always saying yes to things, and like for example, yeah.
Not always.
Okay, so then I guess that clears it up then, because people ask me for shit all the time, and I'm glad I don't say yes to a lot of it.
You know what I say if I don't say yes? I say sure, and then I turn around and think like, fuck off.
We leave it on a positive.
I don't mean on a micro level, but I mean on the macro level. Like, be hungry for life and be hungry for the unknown, and throw yourself out there. And it's related to failing too, because if you feel like you can fail, and you know that you're okay with failing, that's when you're gonna have the most fun. If I wouldn't have accepted this offer prematurely, our lives would have been so much more different. I mean, obviously, but no, yeah, say yes on a macro level. The big picture should be like, yeah, I'm curious, I'm hungry, I want to learn, I want to evolve, I want to grow, That's to me is yes. Say yes. That's what it means. And then of course, say no too. 'Cause there's so much stupid shit out there.
Okay, I got it. Maybe this is too heavy of a thing, but you say like, keep the thirst for life alive, and like, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes life is not so thirsty, and it's, kind of how to keep that stoke alive. It's not always sunshine and lollipops.
No. And that's what I love and hate that about California, because everything is just so fucking awesome and everybody is so pumped and stoked. And hey, I have a lot of integrity. That's like, we're getting back to my dark, like Swedish Norse soul. I want to be alone. I want to be dark. I don't want to be the California guy all the time. It's just like, sure, awesome. So yeah, no, things are not peaches and cream all the time, but it's about embracing that too. And totally. And that's like me and this. It's all about loving death. I love death. I'm so fascinating about the dark side, and I love death so much because it makes me feel alive. I'm embracing death to the full extent, and I'm not afraid of it. And I want to die. I'm really looking forward to die, but I also love living, right? So maybe what I'm saying is that I know that I'm gonna die. You're gonna die. We're all gonna die. So while we're at this planet for a brief moment of time, it's cooler to say yes and learn new things and experience the unknown than just sit there and be conservative and say, no, you can't do that. You can't marry that person, or you can't not be religious, and you got to do this. And it's like, why would you ever want to be conservative? I don't get it. Like, I think just accepting death and living every day like it's your last, I think the world would be such a much crazier place. Good and bad, but more interesting. Well, you know what it is? It's also about being responsible and not being a dick, because that's not what I mean about just living it's not like, hey, I'm going to pour, 100 gallons of gasoline in the ocean because I fucking can. But I think, you only being here for a couple of years out of millions.
Yeah.
And like I want to be here to the full extent, and I want to be very, very alive every second that I'm here. But I also don't want to make a mess, because I want other people to experience what I have experienced here and what I am experiencing. I think that's when you come into trying to be, live your life like can go down in history as a positive example.
Pack it in, pack it out.
Just like that. Don't be a dick. I love saying that, by the way.
Fuck, I don't know. I feel like we kind of covered all the things.
I talk a lot. I can talk forever.
Oh, it's perfect. I love it. I don't remember if I said this in the beginning. If I didn't, shame on me. But if you guys want to learn more about Erik, you can follow him on Instagram at Hummus. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The longest time, my brain saw that as saying hello hummus.
Yeah, that's funny. It's like Hello Kitty.
Yeah. And there's like this black metal thing. I was like, what is going on? This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I ate so much hummus at one point in my life. We had a Hisingen Hummus Institute, me and my wife, and it turned into be a festival of kinds, but it was all about the hummus. This is like we can have another episode about my hummus. But so when Instagram came around in like cycling culture, indie circuits, I was known as Hummus. Everybody, all the all the alley cats and all the races that we did, a lot of underground racing. I was known as Hummus. And when Instagram came around, I just became Hell Hummus, but it wasn't like hummus as it's spelled, because it was sort of like this human too, and homo hummus in a way. So it became Hell Hummus, and it's not spelled like hummus, it's spelled with an O.
Yeah,
Instead of
yeah. But
oh,
it looks like a real, like that could be a band or like a person in creator, or you know what I mean? Like El
yeah.
Holmes, he
Yeah.
plays best bass in all of the land.
Yes, the best hummus in Germany, and play the best bass too.
Wait, okay, I got a question for you. So at one point when I was younger, I met a friend and he was really into hardcore music, and
Mhm.
I had never really heard hardcore music, and I just was like, I don't understand it. It's just kind of noisy to me. Like I don't get it. I was like, can you explain to me like what you see? Like what's the magic that you see in this? So I love that, and he did it. He told me all these things, and then I went on to just like love that genre, and it gave me a way to understand different genres also. But I'm
Mhm.
curious of if you would be able to explain. So say I've like just never really gotten black metal. Like how what do you love about black metal?
I love because it's so fucking nerving and brutal and raw. If I would describe it, it would be sort of like you're in this deep dark forest, and
Mm-hmm.
it's damp, and you're alone, and it's dark, and you lay down, and there's like moss, and you feel like the moist on your skin, and you're like your face is in the moss, and it smells like nature. And then the world just tumbles around you. It's just this violent fucking uh end of the world scenario while you're laying there smelling the moss. And that, like, black metal is that brutal. It's raw. It's an overwhelming feeling of both like disgust and and vibrations, and everything that's magic about nature is in there, in the melodies and in the expressions. But it doesn't smell like the city. That's like death metal smells like the suburbs,
Ha!
but black
Interesting.
metal smells like moss.
Yeah, and that's where I start to get really confused on like, whoa, black metal, death metal, like, like I don't understand. There's so many. It's like cheese. There's so many like subtleties in between all of them.
Yeah, I somebody asked me to describe that last week, and I said, like, if like death metal is like testosterone and bros, it's very extrovert.
Like Pantera.
Yeah, yeah, that's like, but that's just that's the worst kind of fucking bro metal. Like, I wouldn't even listen a second to that band. Um, yeah, it's testosterone. It's a stupid, violent, testosterone filled like bro band. Um,
Wait, what are some examples of death metal bands?
well, there's a lot of black metal or death metal bands that I like too. There's maybe my favorite one is Death Breath, um, and it's awesome. It's yeah, long story, but I'm not going to go in there. But yeah, there are some fusions between death metal and black metal that I really like. But what I like about the black metal is that uh, it's introverted. Hey, I got something here. I can just play that for like 30 seconds. So this is what I'm into right now. This is a Finnish band called Oranssi Pasusu, and they just released an album actually on 420. And you wouldn't think that this is black metal, but this is like where it's traveling into. It's becoming sort of a fusion of all other kinds of of styles. But if you listen to this and you focus on like the nerve in it, it's like it's a bit dangerous. This is like industrial rock, right?
Yeah. And it's like electronic. Oh, I bet Zoom is cutting it.
Okay, well, whatever.
When Zoom's weird with high volume, it like clips it.
Okay,
I don't know
well,
the term.
it's like electronic, and it's brutal, it's violent, and it's dark, but it's very modern. It's like it's not what black metal used to sound like, 25 years ago, when only 100 people were doing it. It's steadily evolving into something else, and these days there's so much electronics into it, and I love that. It's sort of a good metaphor for who I want to be. I want to evolve. I want to move. I want to learn. I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to be that conservative who's like, I'm the purist, I only do this.
Yeah.
I think that maybe wraps it up. I have a meeting now.
Oh yeah.
And because I'm a corporate dude, right? So I have another Zoom meeting I need to go. It's actually cool. We're going to talk about a big vision and about the future of bicycles.
Oh, that sounds very exciting.
Yeah, it'll be a pretty cool discussion. Hey, future is bright. Future for bikes are fucking bright. Like if you're into the gospel of bikes, you'll be okay.
Sick. Yes, and we are, all of us here at Everything's Been Done Enterprises. Well, Erik, thank you so much for being here and spreading some of your knowledge all over us.
It was awesome.
Sick. Thanks, bud.
Okay.
We'll talk to you soon.
Out. Take care.
If anybody would like to follow Erik, he is on Instagram at Hummus. And a funny side note about Erik, I thought this was so amazing. His link in bio was for the longest time, was the playlist to, and I quote, Lords of Chaos, Dark Lord's Darkest Black Metal playlist. That much respect for that. Utilizing that link in bio quite well. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. This was quite the experience. I look forward to doing it again with you next Friday. And maybe in the comments, drop in who you'd like to see next on the show. Very cool. Much respect, and we'll see you soon.